Okay, so I picked up this what they call a special edition set of a dozen Sharpies, which are supposed to be like skin tones. And I thought I found them at Target. I thought I'd give them a try, and what I'll do this probably won't be a very long stream, but I'm gonna first I just want to see what the colors look like on like standard white paper. I have 100-pound cardstock. Then I want to see if they blend, which I don't think they will because Sharpies just aren't known for blending well. But then I'll also see how they work with things like other markers like the Copics or the Ross Creative Expert brand or colored pencils on top of them. Yeah. So I just want to, but it seems like a very convenient set of different flesh tones, from Caucasian to other minorities, black, white, Mexican, So I know my camera's not on yet, RMX. I'm just talking right now. Yeah, so I got this set of a dozen, so we'll take a quick look at those. Let me turn the overlay off. All right, so this is the markers. You can see it's nothing fancy, but you get a 12 of them, and they're supposed to be flesh tones. I'll show you the set of a dozen retails for like $8.39 or something, $8.40. So this is what it is on Target. And you see they're designed for flesh tones of different types. Right? But even in their samples, you really don't see any blending. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. But let's see if I can bring one of these larger. I mean, that's kind of blended, but not really smoothly. But anyway, we'll take these for a drive, and like I said, I'll test them just on their own, and then I'll test them with markers and pencils on top of them. Like I said, I don't think they're going to blend well. I just have a feeling they're not going to blend well. The Sharpies usually don't blend. Alright, so 12 of them here. See everything. This is what made me pick them up because they promote that they're for different flesh tones. And if I could have like a set of these with me when I'm out and about drawing, having different flesh tones available, that would be kind of cool. So let's see if there's the one thing I don't think I like. It doesn't look like there's like if you just look at the body, there's no indication as to which one's which other than the cap color, which is not good if you mix up the caps. Let's see. Something on there? No, that's the same one, although I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's part of the trademark. So we'll have to try and keep these in order so that I know which one's which. Okay, so the first color, have a darkish brown. I'm going to make a couple boxes because again I want to test the blending, and then to keep track of them I'm going to make sure, so I'm starting with them on the left and I'll put them on the right in the same order that I picked them up. Armax saying use some acrylic markers today, or is this even more specifically? But also, yeah, I've seen those. They're good. The one downside is the tip can be thick. What here that makes them harder to blend sometimes. Well, these aren't brush tips. These are regular. I guess these would be medium tips. And you can see even within the test swatches, they don't blend with themselves that well. I might have to see if I can do quick blends while the ink is still kind of wettish. But again, I don't like the fact that the caps don't have, or the bodies don't have any indication as to the differences in color. It's like I like having Copics where I know, like, you know, like Caucasian in Copic is like YR000, you know, yellow, red, 000. That's usually my base Caucasian color, you know. Whereas like this, I wouldn't know which one I'm picking up until I take off the cap or look at the cap. And even then, you know, there's like these two. If you look on camera, they're not that far apart. Cap colors. So, oops, sorry, 3 boxes. So we're just testing them out right now. I just want to get the feel for them, how they work. See, if they had identities, I could put like the name above them, but I don't, you know, there's nothing to differentiate them. I'm probably going to have to put some tape on them and make my own designators. The other thing with markies is I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but I can still see the strokes. So that already gives me a bad feeling about the blending, because even within the color itself, it's not going on super smooth. But if these work well with other markers or with pencils, then it's still a good deal to have like a set of flesh tone markers that you can use for different races, ethnicities, etc. You can see I'm not being super careful about this. And again, I'm putting the markers in the same order as I'm pulling them from left to right, so I can tell which one if I want to pick up one. See, I have to be like extra careful if I want to make it look fairly smooth. This one, you know, you can see this is pretty smooth. I can still see the strokes in that. Okay. Now, to test the blending, I'm going to take two that are fairly far apart so we can see if they blend or not. But so this is the range of colors that comes in it. 12 markers. I didn't put them in order from like light to dark. I just picked them out of the handful that I grabbed and testing them. So I'm not being that organized with it. So let's take this one. That's this one right here. And I'll try and make a smooth swatch. By smooth, I mean where I can't see the strokes so easy. Quite a bit of mark. And then while it's still hopefully kind of wet, I put it on pretty heavy. That's why I use so many layers, but I wanted to see if, see now that I just get a hard line. Going back with the previous color to see if I can pull out some of the darker into the lighter. And even doing a wet blend, you can still see the harsh line. So these aren't gonna blend real well with each other. So let's see how they play with other markers. So I'm just gonna, let's see, we'll take a Copic E17, and I'm just gonna go across and see what kind of interplay we have with these. Now, one thing I'm noticing, it's not pulling the ink, so you can see like I'm not pulling the colors, so they dry pretty quickly. And they seem like they're playing okay with the Copic. But again, I don't know that I could use these just by themselves for a piece. because they don't blend well with themselves. Let's try another color over the top here. This is Champagne, which is E71. Like I say, the good thing is it's not really pulling the ink, but there is an interesting effect going on here where you can see it's kind of bleeding it in the edges on the. So when you take a darker color and go over a lighter, you can kind of see the bleed where it creates kind of like a buildup of the color. Yeah, okay. Let's take a pencil. See how a pencil goes over. We'll take a what is this? Apricot. There we go. So we'll take an apricot color. Just kind of go over the whole thing here. So I'm trying to get a feel for this now before I actually try to do something with them, so I can see how they react to the other tools. You know, even the lighter colors, it's hard to get the color to show through. So the Sharpies are pretty strong in general. Let me get a white pencil. Let's see if we can cover. Because I use white a lot for like highlights and rim lights and bounce lights and stuff like that. Okay. So the white works. The yellow is hard to see on any of them, especially the darker colors. It just, there's not enough opacity in the lead. It looks like to outdo the Sharpie. But I guess that kind of gives me enough to go by, as long as I don't change the order of these, so I know which one's which. Let's grab one of the bookmarks that I need to do. We'll do Ahsoka's orange. Let's do a Blue Eye Samurai, and we'll just work on the face. I can come back later and do the rest of the outfit, but I just want to experiment with the flesh tones. So let me pull up a reference image of Blue Eye Samurai real quick. And we'll see what kind of. Now you could do, because this is animated, if it's a hard cell shaded line, you could do that with these if you get two colors that are close enough together. Keyboard. RMX asking, how's my day been? Not too bad. Work as usual. Okay, so let's take this one. Stop sharing that one and start sharing this screen. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the right screen here. Okay, so we have this Blue Eye Samurai. So these are the kind of tones we're going for. And looking at the tones I have here, nothing really that light, but this one's probably the closest for the base color. So we'll try and go over it. So I'm trying to go slow enough to make sure that the overall tone is smooth. That's why I'm also taking advantage of the black outlines to give me areas of like trapping, where I want to trap the colors. And where I can't do that, because it's too wide here, I'll create a boundary for myself. So that if I do get a buildup, it makes sense. What I mean by that is, like, if I get where the ink lines cross each other, if I get a line that's noticeable, I can make it work as part of the drawing. Hopefully, that's the idea anyway. In these larger areas, because these tips are like mediums, they're not super broad, they're not super fine. So it's hard to get an even coat all the way across because of the thickness of the nib. They do go on fairly smooth. I can lay the pen a little bit flatter, just so I'm using more of the broad part of the tip than I am the point, to make it a little bit wider. It's not too bad. Yeah, the Pooh is very curious about these. Very curious about the Sharpies. The tones aren't bad. I don't know if you missed the beginning. The tones aren't bad, but they don't blend with themselves well at all, Napua. But I think I can use them for like base colors, which is what I'm trying right now. So I've just grabbed this one. The other thing I don't like is there's no markings on the pens to mark what color it is. So all you have to go by is the cap and tip color, and that's not real helpful for me. So what I did is I made the swatches, and I've got the pins in the same order that the swatches are. All right, so this was the base color we used for the face, and because it's surrounded by black lines here, it actually looks a little darker than it does when it's just surrounded by white on its own, but it's fine. And then I want to try and put some shadows in there, but I can't go much darker. So try doing this one as an overlay for a shadow. Let's see. Excuse me. And I'm kind of treating it like a cell shaded look. You can see on the reference for Mizu, I think that's her name, right? Mizu from Blue Eye Samurai. It has a hard line, like a cell shade. Right? So I can kind of get away with that for this character. If I needed more control with more gradient, I'd probably have to go to another marker or add pencil on top. I'm trying to picture the shadow cast by this is going to cover quite a bit, I think. Time to bust out the label maker. Yeah, I don't have a label maker, but I was thinking I might have to like put masking tape on them and mark them so I can have some kind of system of knowing which color's which. Okay. Killing two birds with one stone. No, I'm still I'm doing my testing and I'm working on bookmarks. She really doesn't. I probably shouldn't have put that little dash right there. Her filter's not very pronounced. But here's the thing, like I said, if you were doing this like a cell shading where you have a hard line, this probably is not a bad option. If you don't need blended tones, you can use the markers by themselves. For blending, I don't see there any alternative other than using them as a base and then going on top of them with some other medium like pencils or markers, other markers that do blend. I'm looking at the screen version versus my paper version. My screen, it makes it looks like it's redder on my screen. It's more brown on my paper than what I see on screen. All right, let's try. Let me see. What's the character's name? The guy from Nimona. I know it starts with a B. I can't remember the name. Haven't seen your moment. Balthazar? No, well, something like that. Ballister. There we go. We'll go Ballister. Ballister Braveheart or something like that. Okay. So Ballister's got a little more of a dusky complexion. We'll open up an image of him and see if we can. And thankfully, he's got more gradients, but he's also got the cell shading, so it's kind of an odd mix. But we'll see. We share that screen out again so we can have the comparison. So, Ballister, I'll slide it under the pins, try too carefully. So this is Ballister here versus the screen version. RMX is asking, will I do a static shock bookmark? Maybe. I've kind of got all the bookmarks drawn that I want to for now, and I'm gonna stop for a while because I've done 8 sets already, and I have 3 unfinished sets, so that'll take me to 11 sets altogether so far. And then I figured I'd take some time off from bookmarks and go back to like doing comic book covers. But if I go back to bookmarks after that, I can throw a static in there. And I bristle a little bit, RMX, because the character is just called Static. It's a pet peeve. Okay, I don't want to lose my order on these because I need that. Okay, so Ballister. His base is probably the same. It's not too well. Let's see. Let's see if I can go. This is what I used for Blue Eye Samurai. And that looks like it's pretty close to what Ballister looks like to me, but Ballister, I can go deeper on the shadows. Ballister got more tonal variation than Blue Eye Samurai did. Blue Eye Samurai is still much more the cell shaded animation. So Ballister, I'm going to have to do some shading. How am I going to do this? Okay. Let me start off with I'm going to go lighter in this one. I'll use this color here, so I got to. Since this kind of looked darker to me once you had the blacks around it, maybe I can get away with this. And then again, I kind of have to go to this more of the side of the nib than the tip of the nib, so I'm not getting such fine strokes. Okay, Now I am running into a problem here. This particular ink was done with the Kuretake brush pen, and it has kind of a thickness to it. So I am noticing I am picking up some of the ink with the Sharpies here, and that's because of the black ink type that I used. So I've got to be careful. You can see it's pulling down some of the black out of the strokes. And see, this is what I mean about getting lines in your overlaps. Which is why, like in the other one, I tried to create my own demarcation line so that if I did get overlap, it wouldn't be as visible. So I should probably do that here. And I can go up into there to kind of knock out that one line that I got. Okay, so we'll try to do this whole cheek area in one go so we don't get those lines. Yeah, I've worked with a lot of markers, so you kind of get that feel. Go ahead and put that scar in. You see, this is what I mean. So even I just pulled some ink right there, but hopefully because of the way I'm trapping it into the eyeball, it won't be as critical. But this is good stuff to know, right? Because it's not playing well with this ink on this paper. So I'm getting a lot of ink pulls. And again, that's the Kuretake brush pen, and I think that's because it's not soaking in all the way. Let me see what the back of this looks like. So you don't see that like the black into the paper. So you get like you can actually kind of feel the ink when you put your hand over it because it's got some thickness to it. So like that mustache, I'm going to try and not hit that mustache if I can help it, so I'm not pulling in a lot of that black. Marmax is saying I can try using Prisma over it. Yes, I will try colored pencils over the top of it. That'll be one of the things. That's what when we did the swatches, we did pencils over the top to get a feel for how the pencils blend with it, or if it does. The Sharpie tends to be pretty strong, so I don't think the lighter colors are going to do a whole lot with it, unless you have really opaque pencils. And I'm trying to create areas small enough that I can trap in there with the color in one pass. And I'm kind of wary right now of crossing into the black. Like a lot of times I would just color right over the black, but with this particular ink, I wouldn't do that because it's pulling up. I try to not do that anyway. Can't help it sometimes. All right, so that was all the way over here. Okay. And then we can use, let's go darker. How dark do I want to go? Let's try this one again to create. Now I'm not gonna go all the way in because I'm gonna try and do the wet blend again, but I don't think I'm gonna get very well. So this is the marker we used the first time for the base, but I just want to try and see if I can do the transition part so it's not such a harsh line. And I have to do that. I guess it's not too bad. I mean, I did blend a little bit. I don't know if you can see where it's darker on this side. I'm going to do another layer of that to see if we can. I'm not sure how well that's showing up on camera. I'm trying to create a blend with just the two Sharpies. We'll do the same thing here. I'll try and wet blend into that area. So you can't get a little bit of blend, but not a whole lot. But you do have to hit it almost immediately. So that's why I'm holding two of the markers at once. Because if you let it dry, it's not going to blend at all. And it dries pretty quick. So trying to create a blend with just the Sharpies is pretty tough. Trying to keep track of where the markers were. All right, so that's kind of base tones, but let's put some white over the top, put some highlights in it, and see how we look with that. Let's say the Nimona animation has more gradients than the Blue Eye Samurai. So I have more opportunity to do pencil shading in here. But what I can do with the pencils, I think, is like where I had that transition from the dark to the medium, dark to the base color, trying to blend it. I can use the pencil to hide some of those lines, right? Like in here. So I can make a softer transition with the pencil because I can vary the pressure in the pencil to make it lighter and blend in. That's not too bad. So here, like we can see the the harder line right there. You use the pencil to create a highlight on the chin. But we can also use it to soften up that line. So even though we're creating a highlight, we're also going over the overlap a bit to knock that line back so it's not as harsh. Still trying to figure out if I like these markers or not. Like I said, the base tones aren't bad. It is hard, you know, if you were doing a large piece, it would be very hard to get like a consistent coverage. But I think if you're doing smaller stuff, like him, I don't think he'll be too bad because there's not a lot of surface area to try and color. The one thing is, like, even the lightest tones, once you have ink around them, they look much darker. But let's see. Do I have a darker character? Let me see. RMX says, got to go. We're looking good. Thank you, RMX. Have a good night, man. Thanks for stopping by. All right, here's a Luke Cage. Now, this one's going to be tough because the Luke Cage has a lot of surface area. But, so these were the tests, but I've only used like 3 colors here. So this, and this. And then I used a lighter color for the base on this one, but then it's the same dark color that one has. But I did try to blend them in on this one, whereas I kept the cell shaded line on those. So, I mean, for $8.50 or, you know, whatever, I think it's probably a good addition to a travel kit. But, you know, this is why I test stuff out, because you want to know the limitations before you're doing something more serious with them. Now, this one's got some of that same ink that the last one has, so I have a feeling when I come in to like do the pectorals and the abdominals, I'm gonna get ink pulls. That's one of the reasons I'm erasing it again. One, I want to get the pencils out, but I also want to try and get up as much of that surface ink as I can, so I'm not pulling the ink as much. And you can see how it kind of builds up on the eraser, and I can really feel it when I rub over it. All right. I'm trying to get the smoothness down. You can see I'm picking up ink just on my fingertip. Okay, so looking at Luke Cage. We'll stop that screen. And we'll just get a generic Luke Cage image up. Now, obviously, the colors are going to be different each time, but just so we have a target to shoot from. All right, so I'm trying to find a cage image here that's big enough to show. We'll share that screen just like we did before. So we have the 2. Okay. Let's zoom in a bit so we can see the colors, huh? All right. So looking at the base colors I have to choose from, I'm thinking this is probably closest to the base. So that makes it, let's see, this color right here. So we'll go ahead and we'll just go ahead and cover the whole thing with that base, and then we'll darken in from there. So again, I'm going to try and trap areas of color. So I'm not trying to do a huge swath of paper at a time with the markers. So you're trying to find those natural dividing lines that you can use, so that if you do get lines in your work, they're not as noticeable, because they can just be read as topographical features on the face or the body or whatever. And, I'm narrating this as I go. I don't normally think this hard about stuff because I've just been doing this for a long time. But I just kind of want you guys to have some idea of what my thought process here is. I'm doing it. I'm actually going to leave a bright spot on the nose, I think, for a highlight. Not a huge one, but just a little bit. I do like this. I do like this as a base tone, though. I mean, it's a good color. And I'm not too. This is a Pentel calligraphy pen at the top. Those are really good with most media, so you can go over them with marker or watercolor, or whatever. The Kuretake down here, which I use the larger brush when I have large areas to cover, but obviously you run into problems like this sometimes where it's pulling the ink. Sandy, yay Sharpies. Yeah, I don't know if I would say yay Sharpies, but you know, like I said, for a set of markers that that cost like $8.50 for a dozen, to have a range of flesh tones, it's not bad. They do have limitations, but this is how I would probably end up using them if I put them into my rotation. Is I'd use them for bases with identifiable base colors, and then go over them with other markers or pencils to do the shading, because it just don't blend very well. And then again, because of the way the tips are, they're not flexible nibs or anything like this. So to get through the areas faster, I have to lean the pen over on its side more. So I'm using the fat part of the nib instead of the tip. Which, is only a consideration if you got a big areas to cover, which I do. Or larger areas. All right, so this is where we're going to see if we pull some ink. Yeah, you can see I pull a little bit. So I'm not going to try and go too deep into that, at least for when I'm doing pulling into the chest, so that I don't risk pulling as much ink into the chest. The cross hatching, or the hatching done at the edge of the chest, is the Pentel calligraphy pen. Okay, so I can go to about here safely without pulling a bunch of ink. And I probably should have done this, at an angle, but so I'm not trying to do such long strokes. I'm still. So the strength of these is having like predictable colors in a set, but if you're doing cell shading, like animations type stuff, then I think you're fine with these straight out of the box. If you want to do any kind of gradiated shading, gradients, you're going to have to use something else with them, in conjunction with them. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and do the brush pen areas. So that's the base. Put that back in the lineup, and then I'm looking at the colors on the face again. Sandy's asking how we're doing, Michael and Napua, and I'm not sure if Napua is still here, but okay. So let's look at the shading. Um, so I want to say this is what we use for the base right here, right? Um, let's try going just one over from it. Make sure I got the right color. Yeah. It's going to be pretty dark, but what I'm going to do on this one, I'm not going to do large areas of color. We're going to try to do the blend again, but we'll do smaller areas and then pull it out. Okay. So I'm doing quick swaps between the markers to try and create softer edges. See, the audience is talking, so who's doing okay? Sandy up late as usual. Sandy's always up late. Sandy's a vampire and lives weird hours. Yeah, I'm definitely going to want to mark, use some softer markers with this to create some better blending. Hope your night ends better. Watching Michael draw is a great distraction. Well, I'm glad I could be of help. Napua, are you ready for the interview thing on Thursday? Napua will be, and the crew behind Dracula 1944 will be on SketchUp with Mel and Mog. I think the channel is called The Experience. They do a lot of comic stuff. Just look up on YouTube or Twitch. Look up SketchUp with Mel and Mog. And this week, the guest will be Napua Hina, Drew Gutierrez, Connie Golitz, John J. Murakami, and I'll be in there somehow. I don't know. I'll show up late because I'll be coming from work, but I'll be there. But Napua is the writer Connie is the penciler and Drew is the inker for the upcoming Dracula 1944. Is the Kickstarter live now? I can't remember. I know you guys were posting for notifications, but I haven't seen you guys post that it was live yet, so I don't think it's live yet. But they'll be doing a Kickstarter here to raise the funds to get the printing done. I think last time I talked to Connie a day or two ago, she had like 2 pages left to pencil. And obviously, you know, there's a chain effect. So when she's done with the pencil, she'll have to pass it over to Drew to ink. And then Napua to put the words in. And tomorrow, the Dragon Draw crew is doing dragons. That's what they're talking about now. Being in Hawaii, the Lunar New Year is a bigger deal than it is in some places. So they'll have a big parade and stuff with the Chinese dragons. What do you guys think? This is these markers working right now? I haven't really put much else on top of them. Like right here, I can't get, you know, because I got a lot of surface area, I can't get like really smooth blends. The abs, we're just going to make the abs dark. Okay, so that's got to go there, and that's got to go there, so I don't lose track of which one's which. And then let me grab so you can see this is for this is chestnut. No, this is light suntan. Light suntan. So what I'm going to use this for is to try and smooth up some of the base area. It's light enough that it should blend in with it okay. And that's the nice thing about the Copics is they blend really well. So just between this peck and this peck, you can see this one looks smoother. But they're not bad colors. I think the drawback is just the way the Sharpies work. If they had if they let this out, Sharpie makes a line of brush tip. And if they put this ink in a brush tip line, I think it'd probably be a much better product for artistic use. Just based on this limited exercise right here, I'd say it's fine if you're doing like cell shading where you have sharp lines, but if you're trying to do gradients with them, I don't think it's the way to go. I always get so many bookmarks done every year. Well, I do my bookmarks in a assembly line process where I'll like sketch out sets and then just, you know, throw them off to the side, and then I'll come back later and I'll do the inking and then throw that back off to the side, and then I'll come back and do the coloring. So I can do them fairly quickly when you do it like that. All right, let's put some highlights in him, and then we'll call it a night, I think. I'm going to use a yellow for the highlights. Maybe not. Can't even see that. All right. More yellow. Yellow on the brown creates a warmer look. And then we'll do a quick recap of what we tested out tonight. So you could use a white highlight, but I think it would be too stark. Although I might do for some really bright specular spots, maybe on the nose or the lips. Once I have the lips colored, I would use white. But I think having the yellow light highlights, you get that differentiation in tone, but it's not overpowering. And like I said, it does add some warmth to the overall look. So we started off. We just opened up the box, created swatches. What I wanted to test is so these are the colors right out of the package. Sorry. There goes my order. Anyway, guess it doesn't matter now that I'm done. But so you get a set of 12. I think I still have one more on the floor somewhere. 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Yes, I know the other one went. God, it's underneath the table. And it's where I can't reach it, so it's going to stay under the table for now. So you can see what the colors look like out of the box. One thing, the Sharpies do not blend well. So even the color by itself, you have to be cognizant of the fact that they don't blend well, or else you're going to see the streaks in them. Like I see the streaks in this and this. So, if you go fast, you'll probably see the streaks. And the other thing, if you use the tip more than the body of the nib, you're probably going to get more streaks too. Which is fine if that's what you want. Using the tip especially, you also get more of the glare. I can see the sheen of the marquee ink. So to blend better, not great, but better, use the fat side of the nib, not the tip. And slow down if you can. Okay. And you're going to get those overlap areas. That's why if you got large areas that you need to cover, try to find those natural lines so that if you do get a line in there from the overlap, it blends into the topography of whatever you're coloring. If you're doing like a mouth, the creases around the mouth are a good place to create your border. The edge of the nose, whatever. Say this is like somebody's mouth. So now you're just coloring in this area and not trying to do a whole section. So that if you can keep it smaller, use the fat side of the tip, you can get smoother blends with the Sharpies than you would otherwise. If you're going to try and do blending from tone to tone, again, I recommend you just have both of them in your hand so that you can switch back and forth fairly quickly, because you want to do it while the ink's still pretty wet, or else you're not going to get much of a blend at all. I probably should have two colors that are farther apart. Let's try that. So you can see if I overlap it enough, I start to pick up some of the underlying ink. But they're not going to blend smoothly like you would with your Copics or other art markers. You said for a set of 12, the retail price is $8.39 plus tax. You figure $8.50 for a set of 12. You have a decent set of base colors for flesh tones. No matter what ethnicity you want to draw, you have a pretty good base of colors. But you're probably going to need them in tandem with other markers or colored pencils. I didn't try it with watercolor because I don't have the watercolor paper out tonight, but there's a test drive with the Sharpie Special Edition. Right? You can turn off the screen sharing here. Right? Oh, wrong button. So, all right. So this will probably be quicker. It went longer than I thought I would, but thanks for joining, guys. Napua, have a good night. Sandy, have a good night. RMX has already left, but I hope he has a good night. I don't know if anybody else is watching, but if you are, have a good night.